finally got this thing figured out.
What's up, guys? So we are back with the Canik Mete MC9. What you just witnessed was 12 rounds of 124 grain plus P Federal Premium HSTs go through that MC9. Now, why is that significant? If you saw my original video on this pistol, you would know that we had some issues with the HSTs. We put 330 rounds through this thing in that original video. The only ammunition that gave us trouble were these HSTs. We did some research, made some modifications, and I am more than happy to report this pistol is shooting anything and everything I put into it without any issues whatsoever. We are now up to 900 rounds, and it is shooting as smooth as butter. It is absolutely my new everyday carry, my new EDC. I'm going to show you the modifications I made to this thing and how we got this shooting like it should. Let's do it. Let's start by tearing this thing down. Super easy to take this weapon apart. Let's go ahead and take the mag out of it. Obviously, it's empty. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys I wouldn't be doing anything with this in the gun. But once you have the mag out, all you have to do, these black buttons right here and right here, just pull your slide back very slightly, push those buttons down, slide forward, and it pops right off. Just that simple. Then we're just going to take our slide assembly, flip it over, take our recoil spring out by pushing forward just a little bit and lifting up. It'll pop right out. Then you can get at the barrel, push up, and that will also pop right out. And we're ready to show you the first couple things that we did. So after lots of research, the very first thing I did was I checked the 4 locations on the polymer frame right here. So we're looking at the tan portions, not the silver. We're looking at these tan, the polymer frames. So the area right here, back here, and back there. Okay, you want to make sure that those 4 locations sit nice and flush with the metal that's in front of them. Okay, my 2 out of the 4 locations on mine were slightly bumpy, so I just took 400 grit sandpaper, sanded them down very carefully just so you didn't mark up anything else, but it's very simple to do. Just take a small piece of sandpaper and just take your time. Very easy to do. This polymer sands down, you know, really easily. And now if I run my finger across going from the metal in all 4 locations to the polymer behind it, it's nice and flush, nice and smooth. There's an easy transition, so that makes sure the slide doesn't hang up anywhere on this polymer. You know, if this polymer is higher than those 4 metal locations, the slide is going to catch on that. That could be one of your issues. So go ahead and sand them 4 locations down, 4 locations of the polymer. Make sure they're nice and smooth, nice and flush with the silver areas in front of them. The next thing we did was we went ahead and polished our feed ramp right here. Okay, right out of the box, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't really as smooth and as shiny as it should have been. You can see, hopefully it turns out on camera. I'll try to get a couple different angles here, but it's basically to a mirror finish. Now, in order to do that, so we did the feed ramp, and we also did right inside the barrel. If you look down in your barrel, see if it doesn't turn out on the video, I'll maybe try to get a picture of it. But there's a little bit of a lip. You know, you can only go down so far before you hit a little bit of a lip. So I polished the feed ramp, and I polished right in here in the barrel, but you don't want to go all the way down into where your rifling starts. You want to stay in this area on this side of the little lip that's in there. And in order to do that, all I did was I picked up some of this mag and aluminum polish off Amazon, and I picked up these special felt buff wheels. I'll put links to both of these down below if you want to pick them up. This is perfect for a 9mm. Honestly, it'd probably work on a 45 as well, because it comes with multiple sizes of the buffer wheels. So I just put a little bit of the mag polish on here, popped it in my Dremel, and went ahead and just polished that area till it was nice and smooth. I mean, it is super slick now if I run my finger over that. And again, as you can hopefully see, it's basically down to a mirror finish. So the third thing we did has to do with the recoil spring. So at the range, I noticed after every issue I had, I would take the slide off just to see if I could see anything or try to figure this thing out. And every time, after a couple times actually, I should say, I started noticing that after every failure to feed or whatever issue I was having, when I took the slide off at the range, I would notice that my recoil spring right here, you can see where the bottom of the spring ends, was actually overlapping itself it was very strange. So I did a little more research and come to find out that's not actually all that uncommon on these MC9s. So some people were saying just contact Canik, they'll send you a new recoil spring, but then some were saying that that didn't fix the issue anyway. I came across a couple videos that actually mentioned trimming this spring to stop it from overlapping itself. I was a little bit nervous to do it, but I figured worst case scenario, if anything happens, even if I had to buy a new recoil spring, whatever. So that's what I did. I took this spring off, and in order to do that, literally all you have to do, I mean, it's not that bad. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's not that bad. I just took a little flathead screwdriver and kind of pried it up over the lip from the top, and then you can literally take this spring off the assembly, and I just took my bolt cutters and I just trimmed a very small section. I would say maybe, I don't even know, maybe the length of just this flat part. It wasn't much, and I actually started really small. I trimmed a little bit off, and then I put the spring back on. It still kind of overlapped itself a little, so I took it back off and trimmed a little more. So just do a little at a time if you want to try this. But now you can see it sits flush, and we have hundreds of rounds through this pistol now after I did that, and it has not overlapped itself one time. So I would recommend doing it. You know, if you want to try contacting Canik first and getting a new recoil spring altogether, go nuts. If that doesn't fix your issue, this did fix it for me. That has not overlapped itself since I trimmed that last, that small section off the edge of the bottom of the spring. So after we did those 3 modifications, we took it back to the range, and I honestly was expecting it to work flawlessly. I thought they were the fixes after watching all these videos and hearing from other people. I was extremely frustrated to find that although it was better, it definitely was smoother, less hangups, less issues for sure. It still wasn't perfect. I was still getting a failure to feed here and there. I was still getting a failure to return to battery here and there. Kind of few and far between, but I put a couple hundred rounds through it, and I put about 150 rounds through it at that point, and I was still getting an issue here and there. So I was determined to figure this thing out. I absolutely love carrying this thing. I love the way it looks. It's super compact and lightweight. I wanted to get this thing figured out, did a little more research, and I found another couple videos that definitely made sense to me when I sat back and thought about what was happening, when it was happening, and trying to figure out why it was happening. So let me show you a couple more things that I did. One in particular that I really feel played a huge role in getting this to shoot as smooth as it does at this point. All right, I got you in a little bit closer here to really give you a good look at what's going on. I came across a video where he mentioned the spring on the striker. And when he was explaining why he did what he did and swapped it out, it really kind of made sense to me. So I'm going to show you. It's super easy to do. You take your punch that comes with the pistol, this spot right here. All you do, it's right above your striker pin. If you push down on that, you can slide this plate off. Okay, and then just put your finger there because it is under a little spring tension. So you can slide that plate off there. Now, with that being done, you can go ahead and slide your striker assembly out of the pistol. Okay, so what we did was swap out this spring right here. This is the aftermarket spring. You can see how there's orange on the top. I'll link the spring down below for you. I'm not affiliated at all. I don't get any kickbacks or anything for this, but I'll just link the spring down below for you if you want to check it out. So the reason we did it, this is the stock spring. Okay, now this is compressed obviously a little bit, so that's not an apples to apples comparison. But even when the 2 springs were off the assembly side by side, the stock spring was a little bit bulkier and definitely longer. And the reason in my opinion, that was an issue, and again, the gentleman's video that I watched, it made a lot of sense when he was explaining it. When your slide is coming back forward after you shoot, for a follow-up round, it's coming forward with such a force because this spring is beefier and longer, it's under a lot more tension, that the follow-up rounds are getting hung up on the feed ramp. Even after we polished it, just so much force. And I can't remember the exact numbers. Check that guy's video out. I'll link it down below. He does an awesome job of explaining this. He even shows you how to swap the spring out, which honestly is super easy. You literally just pull it down. There's a black plastic piece in there that comes in 2 pieces. You pull that spring down, pop out the black plastic piece, and then you can remove the spring. Then you pop the new spring on, replace the plastic pieces, and you know, it's really not hard. But he does an awesome job of explaining it and showing you how to do it. It's simple to do, but it just made a ton of sense to me when I was hearing him explain why that matters. It just made all the sense in the world to me. So I went ahead and ordered this spring. It's literally, I want to say I got it for like 13 bucks shipped to my door. It's not an expensive fix. But yeah, I really feel like this and the last mod that I'm going to show you here in a second, these two really, in my opinion, changed everything about this pistol, and we now have hundreds of rounds through this thing. Defense ammo, range rounds, doesn't matter. I've put different things through this thing, through this pistol, and it's eating everything I put in it without a single hiccup. So look into this if you're still having trouble after. If you want to try those other things, check out this spring, and I'll link his video down below. One other smaller thing I did that I almost forgot to mention, I did polish the rail, the feed rail right here, okay? Same thing, I just took 400 grit sandpaper, made sure it was nice and smooth, no burrs or anything, and then I used the same polish and one of the wheels on my Dremel and just polished that down to a mirror finish, and now it's smooth as butter. It's super slick. And the reason I did that was I was noticing that there was some brass on there from scraping, and since I've done that, I've noticed no more brass, and I believe that's helped everything as well. So the very last thing that I did, and in my opinion, just from my experience with this and what I know about the firearms and all that good stuff, I really feel like this was one of the major issues. I think everything that I did helped the situation, but I really feel like this made a lot of difference as well. So your extractor, it's right here, and I'm going to take it out because I have to show you what I did. But basically what that extractor does, if you're not familiar with, is when your round comes up from the magazine, picture this coming up from the mag, your extractor is basically what holds it there, and then when you shoot, it's called an extractor for a reason. It extracts the casing, and that's what shoots it out the side. I noticed that mine was extremely, extremely stiff. You know, you could see how easily I can move this round up and down up against the breech here. Before I did what I'm about to show you, that was extremely stiff, and honestly, it was hard to even kind of get up there against the breech. So I went ahead and trimmed the extractor spring. In order to do that, all you have to do is flip the slide over. This button or little area right there, right behind this silver piece here, so this spot right here. If you push that in, I'm going to take my punch that came with the tool, or with the pistol, push that in, you're going to be able to, and I'm keeping my finger over this silver part while I'm doing this so it doesn't go flying because that is under spring tension. So if you push that in all the way, you can go ahead and remove your extractor. Okay. So there you go. Just kind of finagle it and make sure you're pushing that all the way down, because that's actually what holds your extractor in. And then this, the silver piece, the reason I had my finger over that, as you can see, that's also under spring tension. So when you pop that extractor out, just, you know, have your finger over that silver piece just so it doesn't go flying on you. So this is your extractor. I'm going to go ahead and just clean this off real quick because I don't typically clean this every time I shoot, but it will get some fouling on it. So I'm just going to wipe it off real fast. Now, you want to make sure this part right here doesn't have any burrs. Mine did not. I did not have to sand or polish this spot right here. Just check it to make sure you're good. Mine was and is, so I didn't have to do anything with that. What we did modify is, if you look down here, it actually tipped over on us when we took the extractor out. This is your extractor spring. It's going to be sitting, typically it would be sitting, let me get it back in its spot so you'll know how it looks when you take it off. Typically it's going to be sitting right there, okay? It does come out very easily, obviously. And this spring, in my opinion, was way too stiff. So I did the same thing that we did with our recoil spring, and I trimmed just a tiny little bit off. I did a little bit at a time, the same thing. I think I did this 3 or 4 times because I was just doing a very small amount because it's a very tiny spring to begin with. So I trimmed enough off. This one wasn't overlapping or anything. It was just under extreme pressure. And in my opinion, it was too much because that extractor, when that round was feeding up there, like I just showed you, it was so tight. It was too tight. The round couldn't easily slide up onto the breech like it's supposed to. So I trimmed a little bit off the one end, okay? And how much did I trim? Honestly, if I had to guess, I would say maybe, maybe 2 millimeters if I had to guess. Just do it little by little if you're going to try this. But once I did this, I literally have not had a single issue from this pistol. I should say once I did the last couple things. The striker spring and the feed, the rail right there. Once I did those 3 things, I have hundreds of rounds through this pistol and not a single issue. Okay, I get that this may be a little bit daunting to some people to go messing around with stuff like this. I'm not afraid. If you follow my channel, you know that when it comes to my truck and boat, and I'm not afraid to just go ripping stuff apart and doing what I got to do. It doesn't bother me one bit. So trimmed a little bit off that spring. I put it back in its place. To get your extractor back in, all you have to do is, you can see the extractor spring right there. That little indentation on the extractor itself goes over that spring. And then hold it in place like so. And then we're literally just going to do the exact same thing we did to get it out, just opposite. So we're going to go ahead and push that down. You can see the extractor wants to go back in. So now we're going to go ahead and take our silver piece, push that down. Whoops. If it pops out, it's no big deal. It's got a spring on it, so just pop it back into place like so. So there you go. Okay, so once you push that silver piece down, now your extractor's locked back into place. And once I trimmed that spring, I took a round and I didn't polish this. Some people say to polish the breech area right in here. I didn't do anything like that. I just cleaned it up really good, obviously, but I did not polish that or anything. But now you can see the round will slide up against that breech much easier now. Well, you didn't see it before, but trust me, before I trimmed that spring, it was hard. I actually did have to push on this a little bit to get the round to slide up there and sit against that breech. All right, so that is the last modification that I've done, and after everything I've showed you, this thing has shot flawlessly ever since. All right, guys, so that's everything I've had to do to my Canik Mete MC9 to get this thing shooting flawlessly. Now, let's wrap this video up by saying, should you have to do all this to a brand new pistol or weapon of any kind? No, of course not. But I'm going to cut Canik a little bit of slack here, only because at the price point for this pistol and everything you get with it, the value, really, I didn't mind having to do a little bit of homework on this thing and figuring it out and making those little modifications that I just showed you. None of them were hard to do. They were all pretty simple and straightforward, and I did not want to give up on this pistol because I love carrying it. The accuracy is unbelievable. It is on point. As you can see, we do have our red dot on. In my original video, I mentioned we were going to be adding that and doing a video on that. We didn't get that posted yet, but we will be. That red dot, this thing is a tack driver. I mean, the accuracy is just on point, and it's so compact and lightweight. It is my new everyday carry, without a doubt. If I grab one pistol when I'm leaving the house, this is the first one I'm reaching for now. I absolutely love it. So in my opinion, is it worth the little bit of modifications that I had to do to it? Absolutely. I would buy it again in a heartbeat. Now, with that said, if you do pick one up, hopefully you won't have any issues that I showed you here. But if you do, hopefully this video will help you out and help you get them solved. As I mentioned, we're up to 900 rounds through this thing, and the last 400 or so rounds has been a wide mixture of ammo, range rounds, defense rounds, The HSTs, I put a bunch of HSTs through it just to make sure no further issues, and I haven't had any. I've done more of the Liberty Civil Defense. I've done some Hornady Critical Duty, Hornady Critical Defense. As you see, now that we got all these kinks worked out, we got plenty of gel blocks we're going to be shooting into and doing some ballistic testing. But yeah, I mean, I put such a wide variety and wide range of ammunition through this thing after making all of these modifications, especially those last three that I showed you. I couldn't be happier with how this thing shoots. No hangups whatsoever, especially after I did those last three modifications that I showed you. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them down below. As always, I'm happy to help you out the best I can. Stay tuned. Shooting into gel blocks, lots more on my other firearms as well. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed, turn on that bell. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this video helps somebody out. Appreciate it. Questions, comments, or concerns, put them down below. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.